Hello and welcome back to Laz Unleashed with myself, Laz Michaelides. This is just a little reaction video to the news that UFC 304 will be held in Manchester, England. Now, initially, I was very excited to hear this news, and I think a lot of the fans, when we heard this, we kind of knew it had been coming. There'd been hints about it. Dana White was most definitely talking about this and talking about bringing the UFC to Manchester in particular in recent weeks. But the news, and I'll just get straight to the point, that everyone is quite frustrated and angry with, is that it has been confirmed that it's an 11 p.m. prelim start time and a 3 a.m. main card start time, which is just a massive kick in the teeth for UK MMA fans, and I'm going to explain why. As a massive fan of the UFC, I spend my Saturday nights based around the UFC events. It's my favourite sport, so why wouldn't I stay up to try and watch it? So this means let's say 3 out of 4 UFC nights, let's say 3 out of 4 Saturday nights, the UFC will go on anywhere between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. So that means I'm up all Saturday night watching the fights because I get it. It's American time. It's got to be prime time American, because that's where the largest audience is for 90% of the fights in terms of the locations. So it feels like a massive punch in the gut when I'm told that finally the UFC gets to come to my country and I get to be part of the experience. And oh my God, it's not just a fight night, it's a numbered card. Like there's going to be title fights on it. This is going to be a massive, massive deal for UK MMA fans. But no, because we don't get our 5 p.m. prelim starts and our 8, 9 p.m. main card start. We've got to wait up all night in our own country on a fight card that's going to have our own fighters on it, just to cater to the US audience, which I think is so hugely unfair. Because in the past we have seen them change the times to adapt to the different country. They change the times for Singapore. They change the times for Abu Dhabi. They do it all the time. The times are adjusted to suit the country they're in as well as the US market. Now, if there's a clash and the fights won't be on the US until 4 a.m., but it's going to be, but then they might adjust that a bit. They might move it to, instead of a 7 p.m. start, maybe a 4 p.m. start. They'll work around this. But an 11 p.m. prelim start in the UK for a UK based fight card is just ridiculous, and it's something I'm really, really disappointed for the fans because we've got such a large MMA community and fan base being built up in the UK at the moment. We've got some fantastic journalists and sort of TV channels and podcasts that are all doing massive amounts of work to try and bolster the MMA viewership and fanship in the UK. And all we want is an event. That's all we want, We're just so excited for the UFC to bring events to us. And we've had fight nights in the past, and they've been good, and they've been on prime time, as in prime time UK. So I'm just struggling to see why. But the answer is obvious as to why. It's because it's a numbered card, because there's going to be title fights on it, and they obviously think that this is, this because there's title fights and because it's a numbered card, they have to cater to the US audience. But I don't see how that's fair, really. And you might say I'm being a bit spoiled, but I think we deserve this. We stay up till anywhere between 3 and 7 a.m. on Saturday nights watching the 95% of the cards take place, and all we want is for when it comes here, just to do us a favour, show us a bit of respect for a bit of respect and gratitude for all the time, money and energy we dedicate to supporting the UFC, and just give us a fight card that starts on a decent time for UK fight fans. As I was saying, part of this community, there are so many young people and children who are into MMA at the moment. It's a massively fast growing sport in the UK. We've got MMA gyms popping up everywhere. Leon Edwards' gym is just 45 minutes away from me, and his gym is full of young kids who are just looking to just learn the sport of MMA. And I knew people were waiting to take their kids to this event because, like I said, the UFC doesn't come around often to the UK, and now that's not going to be possible. That's not going to be possible. You're not going to have kids staying up till 6 a.m. on a Saturday night in Manchester for a UFC fight card. And that's not the only problem. Let's talk about some more problems. Last time this happened, I believe it was at UFC 208. It was Bisping versus Henderson. Now that was the last time this happened, where they put a fight card on in the UK and it was on at a ridiculous time. However, I think that finished at 4 a.m. instead of this one, which is going to finish at 7 a.m. The alcohol curfew, the license to serve alcohol on that night ended at 1 a.m. So you had fans there with nothing to drink until, for the last however many fights. Now, I'm not sure, that the UFC are a powerful entity now, so I don't doubt that they might have, negotiating power with the Manchester Council to extend the license, or even, to extend the venue's opening time, because I can't see any venue, no, very, very rarely is it going to be a UK venue that's going to be allowed to open until 7 a.m. Music venues have too many restrictions anyway, and about alcohol licenses as well. I just don't see them being able to serve it. So you can have audiences either completely smashed when the main card starts because their alcohol's been stopped, or I don't want to stereotype Brits, but a lot of Brits do like some, let's just say, yes, some illicit substances, and it's quite popular up in that part of the country. So I don't think this is going to be a nice atmosphere, especially with the main card starting at 3. Now, if we take a look at some potential fights that are going to happen, the obvious one that everyone's talking about is Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. I don't think anyone sees that as a fight ending in the first round or two. I think most people look at that and think that's a 5 rounder. And I just can't imagine having to sit through 5 rounds of Leon Edwards, hopefully, schooling and outclassing Bilal Muhammad at 5:30 a.m. It just seems ridiculous. The next thing is that in London, I believe on a Sunday morning, the public transport doesn't start operating until about 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday. That's London. This is Manchester. This is like one of the next biggest cities. What time's public transport going to start operating there? Because I guarantee you it won't be at 6 a.m. when the whole card finishes. People are going to have to wait around for hours after the event finishes to get their transport home, or to get the train home and stuff. So I just think, yeah, it's really, really disappointing. I don't know. I feel like I had better things. I feel like I still have better things to spend my money on, so I'm not entirely sure. I don't even know if I was going to go if this was going to be on prime time, but it's almost completely made me not interested now. Talking of prices and money, last year's fight night, the worst slash cheapest slash crappiest ticket of the whole thing was about £150. Now that's for a fight night. This is a numbered card, a numbered event with title fights, and I don't think actually they're going to care that it's a 3 a.m. main start. I think we're looking at prices of £200 upwards for people to pay to attend this fight, to attend this numbered UFC 304. So I just think this is an absolute, yeah, an absolute joke, really. And I don't use those words lightly. I consider myself very fair and very reasonable, and thinking things from all sides. But I just really think this is completely unfair on UK MMA fans. You're going to ask us to spend £200 per ticket, that's what I'm guessing, to attend a venue where the event doesn't start until 11 p.m. And again, like I said, we don't know about alcohol licenses. And then you're asking us to stay up through the night, with the main card starting at 3 a.m. and most likely ending at 6:30, 7 a.m. I think it's just ridiculous. This is something that you can see online. There are so many people that are up in arms about this, and it's not just Brits as well. That I have to say thank you to the American MMA fans, who I've seen loads of them defending our anger, and them themselves saying, well, hold on, a 3 a.m. main card start time is, I don't know how what's that in the US, but they were saying we don't mind. We'll take a daytime UFC event. That's great for us. We enjoy it. So I'm just struggling to see why Dana and the UFC think that this timing will in any way benefit the money they make or the US audience. I see it being absolutely huge. I think Tom Aspinall's going to be on there. Leon Edwards is going to be on there. It's going to be a massively UK heavy fighter card. There's going to be hopefully Arnold Allen, Paddy Pimblett, Molly McCann, Davey Grant. We're hoping to see all these big names on this card. That would sell out in a normal arena, and even pay-per-views. I think people are really buying into the UK MMA at the moment. You know, Tom Aspinall's doing massively well. Leon Edwards, not the most exciting fighter, but he's built up a name for himself, and he's quite an exciting guy to watch. So I think you're going to have US fans, you know, tuning in and paying for the pay-per-view anyway. Not to mention fans in Europe who will finally be like, oh, great, now we get a numbered card that's on our time zone. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 hour differences, you know. Just European fans in general will be able to look at this and be like, yeah, this is for me. I can watch this fight card. But now it's just been taken away, and it's just like any other event. So it just leads me to the question, what's the point of doing it? What's the point of having this card in England? I just don't get it. I don't understand why it's being brought here, because you're not catering to the demographic that is in the country that you are putting your event on in. So it's really quite frustrating. And this is just the opinion of the fan. So some fans, others may disagree with me, but I see a lot of people who are agreeing with me, who are saying the same things I'm saying. Now let's talk about the fighters. The fighters, who we've already said are going to be largely UK based, are now going to have to completely mess up their training camps and their fight week prep schedule thing in order to make a fight. You know, they're used to fighting in the daytime. I'm not going to put a time on it, just in the daytime. What, midday? I remember there was that Fight Island card where it was actually the fighters were walking out to fight about 7 a.m. But that was unprecedented because we had the lockdowns and we had COVID going around. These were unfortunate, unusual times and things that were happening. But now you're having to ask the likes of Tom Aspinall, Leon Edwards, Paddy Pimblett to literally hold off by about 12 more hours than they'd be used to. Maybe not that much, but, you know, screwing up their sleep patterns, messing up their energy levels. And I just don't understand. I can't, for the life of me, understand why this has been done. And so it's really, really frustrating. And, you know, like I said, I was already on the fence about going anyway because of the ticket prices. But now I don't see the point. Like, if there's so much has to work out for me to want to go now. I'm going to have to drive up to Manchester. And if I'm going to drive up to Manchester, there's no point booking a hotel because I'm not going to use it. So I'm going to have to drive back. Unless I want to wait for public transport 2 hours after the event's finished, so sit around doing nothing for 2 hours and wait for the trains to come on. So I've got to drive back, which means I then can't have a drink. And again, I'm not one of those typical Brits who loves alcohol and is always on the beers every Saturday night. But it's nice to have. It's kind of a social thing, you know. In between the fights, you go and get a beer, and it's just a nice thing to do. It is part of our British culture, although I wouldn't say I personally am defined by it. But it's just really frustrating. And as I've already said, this is going to be my takeaway from this, is that it is a massive kick in the teeth for British MMA fans. And I'd actually go as far as saying for British MMA fighters as well, because this is just going to completely throw them off their schedule, their energy, their sleep patterns. And I just don't understand the point of doing it. Why bring it to Manchester? It'd be easy to fly all the fighters out to Vegas or something to do the card there. It just makes no sense to me, and it's really disappointing. So I'm hoping they make a U-turn, but in the end, you know, as fantastic a person, let me change that, as fantastic a businessman as Dana White is, he's not, I don't think he's going to listen to people like me or the UK fans and change it, because, you know, he knows what works and he'd rather get the pay-per-view sales in America than keep the UK fans happy. So it is what it is, but it doesn't mean that we can't sort of complain about it. I think we're well within our rights to complain about it. You know, the time, money, effort, energy I put into supporting the UFC, and it feels like, well, now, you know, thanks for nothing, because you can't just bring it to my country and have it a good time. Yeah, really disappointing. Really, really, really disappointing. So I'll leave it there. Just like I said, a little instant reaction to the news of UFC 304 being at Manchester, and it's like, let's, now that the bad parts are out of the way, I will say that it's great to have a numbered card back in the UK. Let's take the timings out of it. It's great news, because they don't do numbered cards often in other countries unless they know it's going to be big, unless they know it's going to sell well. So for the fact that Dana has seen the potential in the UK and the UK audiences and the UK fan base and how much we love it here, now that he's seen that enough to be able to put a numbered card on here is great news for UK MMA. It is great news for the UK and the UFC's relationship in the future. But like I've said plenty of times in the last 15 minutes, this is just pricing and timing the UFC fans out of going to events like this. You know, the last two fight nights, they've priced out the fans, been ridiculously expensive. And now, I mean, I'm going to guess they're pricing out the fans, but they're also timing out the fans, because a 3 a.m. main card start time does not work for any Brit. I don't care what anyone says. People will make exceptions. People will take the day off work the next day. People will take the day off work on Monday to attend. That doesn't mean it works. That means you've adjusted your schedule to try and fit around the UFC. When actually, since we're the fans, we're the consumers, the UFC should be adjusting it to our schedule. And I think, like I said, because we do this so often, staying up to 7 a.m. most Saturday nights watching the UFC cards in America, the least they could do is put it on our time zone and prime time UK. So yeah, again, really gutted, really disappointed, but it is what it is. Let's hope there'll be a change, but I highly doubt it. So thank you once again for joining me on my channel. Hit like on this video if you agree with me. Let me know in the comments if you're a Brit, an American, what do you think of the times? Do you care? Do you not care? Are you going to go? Are you not going to go? Give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments. But other than that, hit like on this video, subscribe to stay updated for new content, and take care, and I'll see you very, very soon.